Jack Miller adjusted his tie for the 10th time as the sleek diplomatic shuttle approached the massive Galactic Council space station. After 20 years of distant communications, humanity was finally joining the galactic community. The station looked like a giant silver snowflake against the black of space, its crystalline arms stretching for miles in every direction. "Ambassador Miller, we're starting docking procedures now," the pilot announced over the intercom. "The welcoming committee awaits." Jack nodded, though no one could see him. His hands were sweating inside his perfectly pressed suit. He represented all of humanity today. No pressure, right? The docking went smoothly, and as the airlock cycled, Jack checked his universal translator one last time. The device, smaller than his thumbnail, sat snugly in his ear. It was Earth's proudest achievement, the key that had unlocked communication with the stars. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 aliens stood waiting. The one in the middle, tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms, stepped forward. "Welcome, Ambassador Miller. I am head counselor Round," the alien said, the translator converting its musical tones into English. "These are my assistants, Swift and Bright." The 2 smaller aliens, both with silver skin and large eyes, bowed slightly. Jack smiled and bowed in return. "The honor is mine, head counselor. Earth has waited long for this day. Please follow us. We have much to show you." The tour was impressive. They showed him the council chambers, where representatives from 1,000 worlds debated galactic law. They walked through gardens filled with plants from across the galaxy, some floating in midair, others glowing with soft light. Jack's eye assistant, Max, quietly recorded everything through his suit's sensors. Then they reached the Cultural Exchange and Research Wing. "This is where we study developing civilizations," Round explained proudly. "We believe in understanding all species fully before formal contact." Something in the way Round said it made Jack's neck hair stand up. They passed through several laboratories, each more advanced than anything on Earth. Then Jack noticed something odd. Readings on his suit's sensors that shouldn't be there. "Max," he sub-vocalized to his eye. "What are those biosignatures?" The AI's response in his earpiece made his blood run cold. "Ambassador, I'm detecting multiple human biosignatures. Children, specifically. Ages estimated between 6 and 12 years old." Jack's diplomatic training kicked in, keeping his face neutral even as his heart started racing. "Head counselor," he said carefully, "I'm curious about your research methods. Would you mind showing me your observation facilities?" "Of course. We're quite proud of our thorough approach." They turned down a new corridor, and Jack's worst fears were confirmed. Through large observation windows, he saw them. Human children in what looked like fancy glass cages. Some were reading, some playing with strange toys, others sleeping, all trapped. "As you can see," Round continued, completely oblivious to Jack's growing horror, "we've been collecting excellent data on human childhood development. Such fascinating creatures, your young ones. Did you know they create imaginary scenarios for entertainment? We call it play. Most interesting." Jack's hands clenched into fists behind his back. The word collecting echoed in his mind like a thunderclap. He counted 4 children in this room alone, and his sensors indicated there were many more nearby. "How many?" he asked, his voice tight. "Pardon, how many human children do you have here?" "Oh, only a few dozen," Round said proudly. "We've been gathering specimens for the past 30 Earth years. Your planet's security was quite simple to bypass. Would you like to see our behavioral notes?" Jack had never felt such rage in his life, but he was humanity's ambassador. He couldn't explode. Not here, not now. These aliens somehow didn't understand what they'd done. He needed to handle this carefully. "I would like to contact Earth immediately," he said, each word measured and controlled. "I believe there's been a serious misunderstanding about our species." As Round led him to the communication center, Jack was already composing the message in his head. "How do you tell Earth that aliens had been kidnapping their children for decades? How do you explain that these beings saw nothing wrong with it? The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humans and their children. The communication center's screens flickered to life as Jack waited for Earth's response. His message had been brief but urgent. Children found. Dozens imprisoned. Requesting immediate diplomatic backup. While waiting, he convinced head counselor Round to give him a more detailed tour of the facility. Each step revealed new horrors. "This is our primary observation deck," Round said, gesturing with two of his forearms. "We separate subjects by age groups for accurate data collection." Jack followed, his AI assistant Max silently mapping the facility and counting prisoners. The walls were lined with what the aliens called habitats, but what Jack saw as glass cells. Some were decorated like bedrooms, others like classrooms or playgrounds. All were cages. A small girl, maybe 7 years old, pressed her hands against the transparent wall as they passed. Her eyes lit up at seeing another human. "Are you from Earth?" she called out, her voice muffled by the barrier. Jack's heart nearly broke. "Yes," he said, turning to face her. "What's your name?" "Amy. I was going to school, and then I saw lights," and she looked down. "I want to go home." Round interrupted cheerfully. "Subject 247 has shown remarkable adaptability, though she still exhibits attachment behavior to her origin planet, quite common in younger specimens." Jack's fists clenched so hard his knuckles turned white. "Her name is Amy," he said quietly, "not Subject 247. "Oh, you needn't worry about names," Round said. "We keep detailed records of their original designations in our database. Would you like to see our collection methods? We've refined them over the years to be quite efficient." "Show me everything," Jack managed to say, his voice steady despite his rage. Max continued recording every detail, every face, every violation of human rights being committed here. They passed more cells. A boy reading a book that was clearly years too young for him. Two girls playing a made-up game with strange alien toys. A young boy sleeping fitfully on a bed that looked almost, but not quite, like one from Earth. "This is our newest addition," Round said proudly, stopping at a cell containing a crying boy. "Acquired just last month. Still in the adjustment phase." Jack stepped closer to the cell. The boy couldn't be more than 6 years old. "Hey there," he said gently. "I'm Jack. I'm from Earth." The boy looked up, tears streaming down his face. "I want my mom," he whispered. "They said I could go home after they finished their tests. But they keep doing more tests." Before Jack could respond, his communicator buzzed. Earth was calling back. He answered, keeping his eyes on the crying child. Admiral Wilson's face appeared on the small screen. Her expression was stone cold. "Ambassador Miller, please confirm your report. You found human children." "Yes, Admiral. Dozens of them, taken over decades. The aliens, they've been studying them. Like lab rats." Jack's voice cracked slightly. "They don't even understand what they've done wrong." The Admiral's face hardened further. "Stand by, Ambassador. The fleet is mobilizing. Every ship we have. I don't care if their technology is more advanced. Nobody takes our children." Round, listening through his own translator, looked confused. "Fleet? Surely there's no need for military involvement. This is purely scientific research. We followed all standard protocols for specimen collection from pre-contact civilizations." Jack turned to face the alien, his diplomatic mask finally cracking. "Those aren't specimens," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "They're children. Our children. And you're about to learn why humans are willing to fight impossible odds to protect them." The lights in the facility flickered as if in response to his words. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Earth's response was already beginning, and the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity's red lines. News spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, the Galactic Council's main chamber was in chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds argued loudly while watching the footage Jack had transmitted to Earth. In the center of the storm, Jack stood before the full council. His suit was wrinkled now, his tie loose, but his voice rang clear and strong. Earth demands the immediate release of all human children, he said. This is not a request. This is not open for debate. The collector's chief researcher, a tall gray being, stepped forward. This is absurd. We have followed every protocol for studying pre-contact species. The specimens are well cared for. They have food, shelter, entertainment. They have cages. Jack's fist slammed on the podium. You stole them from their families. A wave of confused muttering swept through the chamber. The bird-like alien raised its wing. Excuse me, but we don't understand. Young ones are naturally separated from their groups for education and training across many species. Why does this cause such anger? Jack took a deep breath. He had to make them understand. Show them, he said to Max. Show them what they've done. The chamber's main screen lit up with images from Earth. Parents crying over empty beds. Missing children posters. School photos of the kids now trapped in the collector's cells. Birthday parties they'd never get to attend. Families torn apart. On Earth, Jack explained, his voice softer now. Children are not specimens. They are not research subjects. They are our future, our hope, our most precious treasure. Every child in your facility has parents who have been searching for them, crying for them, praying for them to come home. The chamber grew quiet. Many aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They'd never seen anything like the raw emotion in the human images. The collector's chief stood again. This is precisely why pre-contact species shouldn't have a say in scientific matters. You're too emotional. The data we've gathered is invaluable. We cannot simply. A new alert flashed across the chamber's screens. The Earth fleet had just exited faster than light travel at the edge of the system. Hundreds of ships. Everything humanity could muster. You call us emotional like it's a weakness, Jack said, looking around the chamber. But let me be very clear about what that emotion means. Every ship in that fleet is crewed by parents, by brothers and sisters, by humans who would rather die than let a child suffer. A blue-skinned council member spoke up. But your ships are primitive compared to collector defense systems. This is suicide. Jack smiled grimly. You still don't understand. Humans have fought impossible odds before. We faced extinction-level events and survived. We've overcome every challenge our world has thrown at us. And we did it all while protecting our children. The chamber erupted in debate again. Some council members were beginning to grasp the severity of the situation. Others still sided with the collectors. Think carefully about your next move, Jack continued. Earth is new to your galaxy. Our ships might be primitive. But ask yourselves this. What kind of species would build an interstellar fleet, challenge beings far more advanced than themselves, and risk everything, all for the chance to save their young? The head counselor raised all four hands for silence. Perhaps we should reconsider the protocols regarding pre-contact species. But the collector's chief stood firm. The research will continue. If the humans want war over some simple specimen collection, then they'll learn why the collectors have never been challenged in 10,000 years. As alarms began blaring throughout the station, Jack shook his head sadly. No, he said quietly. You're the ones about to learn something. You're about to learn why you never, ever harm human children. Emergency lights bathed the chamber in red. The first battle for humanity's children was about to begin. Admiral Lisa Thompson stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Hope, watching the massive space station through the main viewport. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform crisp despite the 18-hour flight from Earth. The crew worked silently around her, each person thinking about their own children back home. Open a channel to the station, she ordered. Let's make this crystal clear. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. They're receiving. Lisa stepped forward. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of steel. This is Admiral Thompson of the Earth Defense Fleet. We have one demand. Release all human children within the next 24 hours. No conditions, no negotiations, just send them home. The collector chief's face appeared on the main screen. Admiral, you're making a grave mistake. Your fleet is primitive compared to our defenses. We've had space travel for thousands of years while you've barely left your solar system. You're right, Lisa replied simply. Your technology is better. Your weapons are stronger. Your defenses are superior. And none of that matters. The alien blinked its large eyes in confusion. Of course it matters. We could destroy your entire fleet with minimal effort. Lisa smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Let me tell you a story. On Earth, we have many creatures. One of the smallest is called a mother bear. Hunters fear it more than any other animal. Do you know why? The alien shook its head. Because if you threaten a bear's cubs, it will fight anything. Lions, wolves, humans with guns. It doesn't matter how strong the threat is. That bear will fight to its last breath to protect its young. She leaned forward. Now imagine an entire fleet of human parents. What do you think we're willing to do? Sensors started beeping across the bridge. The collectors were powering up their defense systems. Behind their lines, other alien ships were gathering, some supporting the collectors, others just watching. Admiral, her tactical officer called out. They're targeting our engines. They plan to disable us, not destroy us. Lisa nodded. They still think this is about power, about who has the biggest guns. She turned back to the screen. This is your only warning. 24 hours. Release the children, or we'll show you why humans are the most dangerous species you've ever met. The collector chief laughed. You'll be defeated before you reach the station. This is pointless. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But here's something your research missed about humans. We've spent our entire history doing pointless things. Fighting impossible odds. Standing up to stronger enemies. Do you know why? The alien didn't respond. Because sometimes the fight matters more than winning. Because some things are worth dying for. She straightened her uniform. 24 hours. I suggest you study your human history files very carefully in that time. Pay special attention to what happens to anyone who harms our children. She signaled to cut the transmission. Around her, the bridge crew sat straighter in their seats. They all knew the odds. They all knew this might be their last day. None of them cared. Orders, Admiral. Her XO asked. Spread the fleet out. Defensive formation Delta. And get me Ambassador Miller on a secure channel. She watched as more alien ships arrived, curious about this species willing to fight impossible odds. Let's show them what humanity does when pushed too far. As the Earth ships moved into position, Lisa thought about the children on that station. Some had been prisoners longer than they'd been free. All of them probably thought they'd been forgotten. You weren't forgotten, she whispered. And we're coming for you. The countdown to humanity's first galactic war had begun. 24 hours to change the collectors' minds, or show the galaxy why you never cage human children. Dr. Blue rushed through the station's corridors, his tentacles carrying him faster than most beings could run. The elderly alien scientist had spent 50 years studying various species, but never had he seen anything like this. He had to reach the council before it was too late. The council chamber was still full. Representatives argued about how to handle the human fleet. The collector chief was showing weapon specifications, proving how easily they could win any battle. Stop, Dr. Blue called out, his voice echoing through the chamber. You're all missing something incredible about humans, something that changes everything. The head counselor recognized him. Dr. Blue, this is hardly the time for. It's exactly the time. The old scientist connected his data pad to the main display. Look at this. I've been studying the human responses since this crisis began. Their brain scans, their hormone levels, their biological reactions to seeing their young in captivity. Images filled the screens. Human brain scans showing intense activity in emotional centers. Chemical analyses showing stress hormone levels far beyond normal ranges. Humans are unique in the galaxy, Dr. Blue explained. Most species protect their young out of biological duty. But humans have evolved something we've never seen before. They form emotional bonds that actually grow stronger with time. The collector chief scoffed. This is meaningless. Emotional attachments are a weakness. No. Dr. Blue's tentacles waved in excitement. That's what makes them so remarkable. Their emotions make them stronger. When a human child is in danger, their parents' bodies actually change. They can lift impossible weights, ignore pain, fight beyond normal limits. He showed more data. And it's not just parents. All humans respond to children in danger. They have something called protective instinct that extends to any young human, even ones they've never met. The chamber grew quiet as Dr. Blue continued. In most species, young ones are raised by the group until they're ready to join society. But humans create family units. They form lasting bonds. Each child is precious to them in a way we can barely understand. Ambassador Jack stepped forward. He's right. On Earth, we have a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Every child matters to us. All of them. Always. Dr. Blue nodded eagerly. Yes. And look at this. He showed historical footage from Earth. Humans have fought wars to protect children. They've made laws about children's rights. They've built their entire society around protecting and nurturing their young. It's not just biology. It's the core of their civilization. The head counselor frowned. But surely they must see that our research is important. They don't care about the research. Dr. Blue almost shouted. Don't you understand? To them, we're not scientists studying specimens. In their eyes, we're monsters who stole their children. Their most precious treasures. The ones they would die to protect. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. The bird-like alien spoke up. So you're saying they'll actually attack us, even knowing they'll lose? They don't care about winning or losing, Dr. Blue said quietly. They care about their children. And if we don't return them, he looked around the chamber gravely, we won't be facing a primitive fleet. We'll be facing an entire species of beings who would gladly die just to give their children a chance at freedom. The head counselor looked troubled. The collectors have studied thousands of species. Their research protocols. Their protocols never considered a species like humanity. Dr. Blue interrupted. We have 19 hours left before their deadline. I suggest we use them wisely, or we're going to learn exactly how far humans will go to protect their young. As if to emphasize his point, the station's sensors detected more Earth ships arriving. They were badly outnumbered and outgunned, but they came anyway. Because that's what humans do when children are in danger. They come, no matter the odds. While the galaxy watched Earth's fleet face off against the Collector's superior forces, something else was happening in the shadows. In a small room deep inside the space station, Ambassador Jack met secretly with his real weapon, Tom Wright, Earth's best hacker, who had smuggled himself aboard during the diplomatic chaos. How long do you need? Jack asked, watching Tom's fingers fly across his portable computer screen. Their systems are advanced, Tom said, not looking up. But they never expected anyone to try this. They're so proud of their military technology that they forgot about basic computer security. He smiled slightly. Give me 2 hours. Jack checked his watch. We have 10 hours until Admiral Thompson's deadline. Make it count. While diplomats argued in ships prepared for war, Tom and his team of 5 hackers, hidden throughout the station, worked their way through the Collector's networks. They weren't trying to shut anything down. They had a different plan. Found it, Tom whispered after 90 minutes. Their observation cameras, their research recordings, everything they've done to the children. It's all here. Jack leaned forward. Can you do it? Tom nodded. Broadcasting now. Across the station, screens began to change. In the council chamber, in alien homes, on ships throughout the sector. Everyone's displays were suddenly showing the same thing. They saw children crying in their cells. They saw young ones begging to go home. They saw the fear, the loneliness, the quiet desperation of imprisoned kids who thought they'd been forgotten. But more than that, they heard the children's stories. I was walking to school. One young girl said to her cell's camera, "I was going to present my science project. Mom helped me build it all weekend. It was my brother's birthday," a boy told his captors. "I was just going to the store to buy him a card. I want my daddy," a tiny girl cried. "You said I could go home after one more test. You promised." The images kept coming. Birthdays spent in cells, children growing up behind barriers, toys from Earth clutched like treasures, letters written to parents who would never receive them. In the council chamber, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence. The collector chief tried desperately to shut down the broadcast, but Tom had locked them out of their own systems. "These are your research subjects." Jack's voice came over the broadcast. "These are the specimens you've been studying. Look at them. Listen to them. Try to understand what you've done." The images shifted to Earth. Empty beds in children's rooms, kept exactly as they were on the day each child vanished. Parents who still set a place at dinner for their missing children. Siblings who kept asking when their brother or sister would come home. "This is what you've done to our families," Jack continued. "This is why our fleet stands ready to fight. This is why we don't care about the odds." Dr. Blue, watching from his lab, saw many alien representatives weeping, something most of their species weren't even capable of doing. The humans had found a way to make them feel what parents on Earth felt. The collector chief stormed into the broadcast room. "Stop this immediately. This is a violation of..." "Of what?" Tom asked, not stopping his work. "Your right to torture children. Your privilege to destroy families. Look at the screens. Look at what you've done. The galaxy is watching now. They're all seeing the truth." And they were. On every ship, on every planet receiving the broadcast, beings of all species were watching. Many had never understood humans' strange attachment to their young. Now they were beginning to understand. The collector chief's communicator buzzed. The head counselor's voice was sharp. "Return to the chamber immediately. We need to vote. Now." The children's stories continued to play across the galaxy. Humanity had chosen not to fight with ships and weapons. Instead, they fought with the truth. And the truth was more powerful than any weapon the collectors possessed. The vote took less than 10 minutes. After seeing the children's stories broadcast across the galaxy, the council made their decision. The head counselor's voice shook as they announced it. "By unanimous decision, except for the collector delegation, we order the immediate release of all human children. Furthermore, all research data must be turned over to Earth's representatives." The collector chief tried to protest, but the council wasn't finished. "Additionally, we hereby ban the collection of specimens from any sentient species without explicit consent. The age of secret observations is over." Jack watched as station security officers rushed to open the cells. Some children ran out immediately. Others, who had been captive longer, needed gentle coaxing. Each child was wrapped in a warm blanket and given a small Earth teddy bear that Jack had brought aboard. Tom's broadcast continued, but now it showed something different. It showed the rescue. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched as human medical teams rushed to comfort the children. They saw how each child was treated not as a research subject, but as a precious individual. They watched as Admiral Thompson herself walked through the halls, kneeling to talk to each child, promising them they were going home. "I want everyone to understand what happened here today," Jack announced to the council. "Not just about the children, but about humanity itself. You thought our emotions made us weak. Instead, they gave us the strength to challenge an entire galaxy to protect our young." Dr. Blue stepped forward. "We have much to learn from humans," he said. "Your species has shown us that there is strength in caring, power in compassion, and wisdom in protecting the innocent." The next few hours were busy. Medical teams checked each child. Earth authorities worked to identify everyone and contact their families. The collector's research data was secured. But the most powerful moment came when the first group of children boarded the transport ship home. As they walked up the ramp, station workers from different alien species lined the walls. One by one, they began to bow, not out of protocol, but out of respect for the human children who had endured so much. A month later, Jack stood before the council again. This time, he was there to sign the Galactic Children's Rights Act, a new law inspired by humanity's stand. This law will protect young ones of all species, the head counselor announced. No more secret research, no more taking of children. We thank humanity for teaching us this lesson. After the ceremony, Dr. Blue approached Jack with exciting news. Other species are starting to change how they treat their young, he said. They're creating family units, spending more time with their children. Some are even adopting Earth's education methods. Jack smiled. Sometimes it takes an outsider to help you see what really matters. The final part of the story happened a year later. On Earth, in a small town, a little girl named Amy, one of the rescued children, stood before her class for a special presentation. My show and tell today is about how humans changed the galaxy, she said proudly. Not with big ships or fancy weapons, but because we know something important that even advanced aliens didn't know. She held up a hand-drawn picture of Earth surrounded by stars. We know that the strongest thing in the universe isn't technology or power or science. The strongest thing is love, especially the love we have for children. Her teacher, who had also been following the galactic news, wiped away a tear as Amy continued. Now, all across space, aliens are learning what humans always knew, that children aren't specimens to study. We're people to love and protect. And that's how Earth taught the galaxy its most important lesson. As Amy finished her presentation, somewhere in deep space, a collector ship changed course to avoid Earth's solar system. They had learned their lesson. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never mess with human children.